Hey everybody, it's Steve. Welcome back. We're once again out with my chicken coop, where this morning I came out and discovered it was absolutely full of feathers. Now, at first, I suspected my dog might be involved because there was something that I noticed this morning that just seemed a little bit off. But I took an inventory of the chickens and all were present and accounted for. So what was going on here? Well, it's something called molting. Chickens do it from time to time. It's very normal. And we can talk about it a little bit more because that's something that even I can do. Okay, so molting is a natural behavior that all chickens go through, and in fact it starts very early on in life. You might not notice it because they don't have as many feathers to begin with, but even as young chicks they're molting. There's as many as 4 stages that they go through, up to about 20 to 22 weeks. At that point they will have their full set of feathers. Then, in about 15 to 18 months, typically in autumn, they will then go through another molting process, which is much more obvious. Like I said, you'll see your coop full of feathers. You might not notice it initially on the birds themselves, but within a couple days you will. Kylo, for example, I thought she was going prematurely bald like me, but it turned out it was just part of the molting process. As you can see here, you can start to see where the feathers will come out of these little spiny things. Now, it's not surprising that we're seeing that on Kylo's head, because molting will typically start at the front of the bird, at the head of the neck, and then move towards the back, ending with their tail feathers. Now, let's take a look at Cookie. And here you can see where she's lost a significant amount of feathers around her neck area, behind her head. Looks really bad. I feel very bad for her. That's probably about as extreme as you should see, because as the process unfolds, some of the feathers that she loses initially will kind of start growing back, while then the ones in the back will start to grow in. Here's another look at Cookie within about 2 to 3 weeks from where that last photo was, and you can see now some of her feathers have already started to kind of come back in on her neck, looking a little bit better. So those examples were fairly extreme: the balding chicken, the neck feathers. Then you know for sure that your chicken's molting, without a doubt. There are some signs to look for though before the molting begins, and that's just some behaviors that are not always consistent with what your birds do. Mine are always around the yard, pecking and scratching. But just before this last molt, I noticed Cookie in particular would just sit underneath covered areas and just do nothing really, just sit there. I was really concerned for her for a couple days before I realized what was happening, because she just seemed so out of character for her. Sometimes they can become more aggressive. Carlo's known to become aggressive when she's in the molting process. Other times they'll lose their appetite. My chickens love their grubs, but when they're molting, even the grubs sometimes are not that interesting to them. So just a couple other behavioral issues. Anytime you see something change, you might expect a molt on its way. All right, although there's nothing you can do about their annual molt, that's just something that happens. If you start to see the chicken molt more often than annually, then you might want to be concerned. A couple of causes can be malnutrition. Make sure the bird is getting enough to eat and it's good quality food. Extreme heat might cause it, or there could be some other sort of physical stressor that's happening in their environment. So keep an eye out for possible predators that are bothering them, or anything else that's unusual in their coop that might be upsetting them. Now, if you're expecting extreme heat and you want to avoid a molting situation caused by the stress of it, make sure that you keep them fully hydrated, lots of water. Consider freezing some of their favorite treats like cantaloupe. We'll get watermelon and strawberries, freeze those up and then get them in their coop so they can peck at those and try to keep them cool. Anything you can do to minimize the heat will keep them in better shape and hopefully avoid a stress molt. All right, so let's talk about what you can do to help your chickens get through this difficult and stressful time. Number one, you want to make them comfortable. So first of all, think about temperature. Is it too hot? Is it too cold? What can you do to bring it into a more pleasant environment? So close off anything that has creating a draft in the coop if it's cold. If it's hot, consider some of those frozen treats that we talked about. Lots of water. Hydration is very critical during this period, so make sure they have a lot of water. Next, you don't want to add any additional stress to their environment. So that means don't add new birds. If you have any birds that are in there that are particularly aggressive, you might want to segregate them at this point so that they're not picking on the birds that are molting. The bedding, if you have nice, good, clean, comfortable bedding, make sure you've dealt with that. The process is painful, so avoid handling the birds if possible. The less handling, the better, because it does hurt them a little bit. These quills, as they're coming out, those things are filled with blood, and occasionally they do burst. So if that happens, hopefully it will stop bleeding on its own, but if it doesn't, you might actually have to get in there and with some tweezers and pluck it out. If you do that, apply pressure to the spot where it's come out until the bleeding stops, and then add a little bit of antibiotic ointment. More information about that at some of the links I've posted down below. All right, we made them as comfortable as possible. So now let's talk about their diet. Feathers are primarily protein, so we want to increase our protein supply to the chickens. Now, I wouldn't want to do that aggressively, and I don't want to do it through treats. So that means, say, for example, mixing in some starter feed with their regular food. Now, we normally feed them 17% protein, and I would recommend maybe bumping that up to 20%. I have an example up here that you can try out, but I don't swap it out completely. What I'll do is I'll mix in a portion of the higher protein with their regular food, so that's not a dramatic change. Too much protein can actually be a problem as well. You might see diarrhea. They'll pee and urinate more often. That wets the bedding and could create other discomfort for that reason. So moderation, everything moderation. I do like to introduce a little bit more treats during this time that contain the protein, and I'm going to talk about a recipe for that right now. One of the best sources of protein is these mealworms or those black fly larvae. I like yogurt. Now, not everyone does, so what I'll do is I'll take a spoonful of yogurt. We'll drop that in here. Then I'll add the mealworms. So I happen to have a little cup of the mealworms right here, so we'll add those. Oyster shell, they're a good source, so we'll throw some of that in there as well. All right, and then I just add some things that they like, that I know that they like. So apples, so throw some apples in there. Asparagus, drop a few of those in there. And that makes a nice little potion here, a little porridge. I'll stir that all up, and I'll tell you what, it looks pretty good. That's good stuff. Now, even though I found it delicious, keep in mind that not everyone thinks yogurt is good for chickens. It's definitely not good for them in excess. So if you're going to give it to them, it's going to be in small amounts and only during times when they really need it, like this molting situation. People will say that chickens are lactose intolerant. This could cause diarrhea and other issues. Definitely do not use yogurt that contains added sugars or artificial sweeteners or anything like that. It should be plain yogurt only. All right, so keep that in mind. Again, our chickens have been doing it for several years now. I haven't seen any negative consequences, but not everyone is a supporter of the yogurt. All right, if you like that recipe, give that one a try. Now, what you don't want to do is give them treats that don't really have any nutritional value. You want them to be focusing on eating foods that are going to help them through this stage, not filling them up with empty calories and things that aren't that useful to their recovery. There are other good sources of protein for chickens. I'm not going to go over all of them. Some things I've seen recommended from time to time include scrambling an egg, believe it or not, or even hard boiling one and feeding them those little chunks. Also worms, so if you can buy a bag of earthworms, the black soldier fly larva, as I said before, very high in protein, very good for them. Other things I've seen recommended that I haven't tried, I don't know, I do some research. High quality cat food is one, and there's other stuff out there, lots of good websites. I can put some links down below in the description for that as well. So one thing I would note is that we do use the same kind of bowls to eat out of in our house here. So if I have the chickens eating out of, I don't really want to use that bowl. So I had to figure out a way to differentiate them. So what I did was I wrote on this one chickens. So I know. Little tip for you. Now, as I may have already said, molting is something that you will typically see in late summer or autumn, and that's to be expected because they're going to get rid of those old feathers and bring in new feathers that will help keep them warm in the winter. It's biologically triggered by the shortening of the days, so that's how they know that their bodies know that they should start this process. Now, it's a little bit unusual right now. We have 3 birds. 2 of the birds are in fact molting, Kylo and Cookie, but Butter has not started. Although I've noticed a couple feathers here and there that look a little off, so I wouldn't be surprised to see her begin the process very, very soon. So they say that chicken molting can last anywhere between 4 to 16 weeks. 16 weeks seems a bit on the long side, but maybe that's including the time where you'll start noticing those the dull feathers, the stray ones sticking out, where she's not fully into the molt, but it is a beginning. And then the ending time, you know, maybe she's not 100%, but hopefully within 4 to, I would say, 8 weeks, she should be pretty good. Now, the bird we have here, Cookie, you'll see it's been about, I think, 3 weeks now, and some of her feathers are starting to grow back in. You can see her neck here. It looks a little bit better than it did even just a couple weeks ago. So she's on her way to back to full strength. Kylo still got that premature balding going. Hopefully we get her back in business soon as well. She's one of our best layers when she's fully healthy. Okay, that is all we have for today. If you found this video helpful or interesting, please hit that like button. Please subscribe. We also have some Amazon affiliate links down below in the description, as well as up here for some of the products that we mentioned in the video. If you liked our signs, that is also available. So I put some links for those as well. And that is all we have for today. Until next time, this has been Steve for things that even I can do.